The one-handed backhand, in my opinion, one of the prettiest strokes. And sometimes it seems to people that is very difficult, but it actually is not that difficult. It requires less parts to be moving. So let's go through the stroke and the fundamentals biomechanically. Rhythm and positioning is going to be crucial in order for you to be able to hit this stroke. So we're talking about a right-handed person hitting a one-handed backhand. So the first thing that you need to do is decide whether you're going to hit a forehand or a backhand. Now we've decided that we're going to hit a backhand, so we need to position ourselves to the right side of the ball, and then we need to start running forwards. Now if the ball is far from you, of course your ball is already on the left, so you need to start going towards the ball. But when that ball is neutral and the ball is far from you, or the ball is coming at you, get to the right side of the ball and then run forwards or backwards. So when I talk about rhythm, I mean to try to mimic the speed of the ball. If the ball is floating, you want to be floating. If the ball is going fast, you want to be going fast. So you're basically copying the speed of the ball so that by the time it's time to hit that ball, you and the ball are moving at the same speed. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you're finding helpful tips, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. It's super important that you know at this point if you're right eye dominant or left eye dominant. I'm right eye dominant. So for me, it's going to favor me to try to have a little bit more of a closed stance, because that can get my eye closer to the ball. The moment that I start opening up my stance, unless I twist my head, I'm gonna start making it difficult for my eye to see the ball. So I'm gonna try to keep my stance closed. Now that doesn't mean we're gonna close our stance. Now sometimes when you're running, that foot is gonna get in front of your left foot, but it's ideal and it's crucial that you help your hip at the end of the stroke. You relieve that hip by bringing that left hip across. So at this point, we're running to the ball and we're getting ready to take that backswing. The one thing you don't wanna do is over-rotate the back. It's enough for that shoulder to get to the point where it's almost pointing towards the ball, and make sure that you're helping your dominant eye. In my situation, my dominant eye is my right eye. So I'm gonna try to point towards the ball with my shoulder, and I'm gonna try and look at that ball using my right dominant eye. Another thing is your arm. You don't want to keep that arm too far from you, because again, the farther the racket is from your body, the heavier it's going to feel, and the more effort your spine is going to have to make to hold the weight of that racket. So you want it close enough, but not too close either that your elbow is touching your body, because you're going to inhibit some muscles. So give it a little bit of distance. When you're taking the racket back, it's helpful for you to use your left hand and point it in the middle of your racket to try to guide that racket towards the back. We're looking for the entire racket to get behind the ball. We're looking for that butt of the racket to get behind the ball. So right as we're turning, I want you to think about the muscles in the front and the muscles in the back. So at this point, I want you to think about balance between the muscles in the front and the muscles in the back. So the muscles in the front are going to contract and help you take that racket back, while the muscles in your back should also be contracted so that your body is able to be positioned as perpendicular as you can to the ground. You're gonna be leaning forward at some point, but the last thing you wanna do is start leaning towards the left, because again, you're gonna put too much strain on your back and your eyes are not gonna be looking horizontally. So at this point, the ball has bounced and we're getting ready to go forward. This is when I want you to think about bringing your grip around to meet the ball. You don't want to be thinking with the outside of the racket. You want to be thinking with the grip, because the moment that you bring the grip, the tip of your racket is going to come with it. This is going to be the fastest part of the racket. An object that's rotating in a circular motion always rotates the fastest on the outside. So bring that grip of the racket slowly to make contact, and this is going to come automatically. At the moment that you make contact, this is when you want to be thinking about extending that contact for as long as you can. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you're finding helpful tips, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. So keep your core tight, because we're coming from performing a rotational motion that's ideally going to become a straight line towards your target. So at this point, it's important that you start thinking about accuracy. Now, I have a closed stance on my back, and so what I want to do is I want to try to imagine a straight line between my left foot to my right foot, and that line should go as close as I can to my target. So we've made contact. At this point, what the right shoulder is doing is getting out of the way. It's not giving you power, it's actually making room for your racket to do what it needs to do. So be careful going a little too fast with the right shoulder and making it a dominant part of your body. It's just going to get out of the way to try and let your racket do what it's trying to do. So now we have made contact and we're trying to extend that contact. So you want to try to keep that racket, the entire racket going forward. You don't want to dominate with the grip, the tip. You don't want to dominate with the grip either. You want to try to, if you were to be able to point your whole racket towards your target and draw a straight line from the middle of your racket to your target, that racket should almost be perpendicular to your target. So the longer you stretch that contact and the faster you do this, the more you're gonna have to think about a faster rotation during the topspin, because this is going to give you a lot of depth. So it's just like math. More of this, it's going to need a little bit more of that. So we have finished that rotation. And at this point, keep that core tight, the front and the back, because we are getting ready to separate that arm from the rest of the body. At this point, you want to be thinking about your upper body and your lower body as a unit. So keep the hips engaged, keep the core tight, and think of that right arm as the one that's going to perform the end of the stroke. At this point, I want to bring your attention to balance. Balance in your muscles. The muscles in your back and the muscles in your front are going to be doing an amazing dance of contracting. So the muscles in your back are going to contract to open up that arm, and the muscles in your front are going to also contract to not let the muscles in the back dominate too much and you hurt yourself, hurt your shoulder, hurt your back by leaning too much. So you need to be thinking about contracting both. At this point, I want you to think about your left shoulder. What you want to be doing is bringing that left arm backwards with the intention of becoming an anchor. You're not going to drive power by bringing it back, because that will throw you backwards. You're going to slowly bring it back so that at some point it needs to stop and it needs to become that anchor that the right arm needs to go exactly where you want it to go, and to perform that fast motion at the end that's going to be your topspin. So again, keep that core engaged, front and back, so that we can turn that whole body into a unit. So we have separated that right arm from the rest of the body. And at this point now, it's super important that you start thinking about the right shoulder as the pivoting joint that is going to help your arm perform that topspin. You don't want to be rotating that shoulder. You want to rotate your arm around the shoulder, because what happens when you rotate that shoulder, remember what we talked about in the beginning, there are muscles in the back contracting and muscles in the front contracting. Guess what? Now you're helping the muscles in the back contract, so you're going to end up unbalanced. You're going to end up throwing yourself to the back, and guess what? Now your spine is not completely sitting perpendicular. Now your spine is going left and back. So you have all these discs that are supposed to be sitting on top of each other to use the power of the whole unit. And now each of them is having to deal with a lot of force. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you're finding helpful tips, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. So now we're getting ready to rotate that arm. And I want to bring your attention to your arm. You don't want to be keeping that elbow bent. You want to try to stretch that arm towards the end so that you can give it not only forward momentum, but you can also give it more rotation. Now, you don't want to be locking that arm that's going to hurt your elbow. You want to keep a little bit of bend, but with the intention that you're using the entire arm to do that topspin. The last thing that is going to happen is your hand is going to finish up this stroke. So in my mind, I always picture 2 windshield wipers. One windshield wiper with my arm and one final small windshield wiper with my hand. If you thought about only one windshield wiper, that means that your hand would never be helping you. So what you want to do is loosen up your wrist so that you can start bringing that racket, that tip of the racket, to the right side of the bottom of the racket. So we're at the point where that hand is going to turn. So you also want to think of your wrist as an anchor for your hand. Again, the moment your wrist gets moving, there's no way that you can use your hand. So we're going to try to anchor that wrist, and we're going to try to bring the tip of the racket to the right side of the butt of the racket and finish up the stroke. At this point, your core should be tight because this is one of the fastest parts of the stroke. So now all that is left is to finish the stroke. So your arm has finished. Now it's time to let go of your hips, and it's time to bring the left side of your body forward so that you can distribute your body weight evenly between your right side and your left side. Of course, there are gonna be a lot of moments when you're gonna be running and your right leg is gonna get in front of the left leg. But ideally, what you wanna do is release that right hip as soon as possible so that you're not twisting your back and you're not stretching the ligaments that are keeping your hips attached. That's the one-hander backhand. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel.